Welcome back to another episode of the 21st century, the century of neuroscience. In this episode, we'll be taking a closer look at neurocognitive enhancers in the United States of America. Today's world is dominated by competition. We are constantly looking for ways to level the playing field between businesses, coworkers, and our fellow students. Neurocognitive enhancers make or break your chances for success. For some students, they are the solution, but for others, they allow them to unfairly rise above the competition. Neurocognitive enhancers offer a great deal of hope, but unfortunately their poor regulation results negatively in terms of coercion, safety, and distributive justice. But hold on, before we continue, let's take a closer look at neurocognitive enhancers.
In your words, could you please define neurocognitive enhancement drugs?
I would say a neurocognitive enhancer is any substance that is taken into the body that enhances or benefits, right, the person in or their cognitive state.
Would you compare current and future neurocognitive enhancement drugs to other forms of self-enhancement, such as plastic surgery or fertility treatment or even the internet?
I would not, because I think that neurocognitive enhancement, the issue with that, right, if you look at something like plastic surgery, right, and somebody, yes, it is a difference in who has access to it, right? But it does not necessarily, there are some industries, right, where that would make a difference. But I would say neurocognitive enhancement could play a larger role in inequities, for instance, in the workplace, or people feeling that they need to use neurocognitive enhancers if they become mainstream, compared to something like plastic surgery that is more benefiting just that individual, if that makes sense, or the internet, for the most part, right, internet these days, you can get it, and so I would say that is an equal distribution, right, that anybody can use it, it's just how you use the internet, right, so that's why I would say that they're much different.
As early as the 1970s, neurocognitive enhancers like ADHD medications, began being used by students all across America to help them succeed. These medications were prescribed to students with deficits in attention, problem solving, processing speed, memory, among many others. Since then, these drugs are still being used, although their extreme popularity have unfortunately led to very poor regulation of them.
But do you think ADHD medications are currently overprescribed?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, right. I'm very careful about how I prescribe medications, but I think, I guess this ties into, like, I think a lot of psychiatrists are sort of pushed by their, like, the companies they work for. So I'm in private practice, I have no other boss. I can take 2.5 hours with people if I want to, and it's totally up to me. But a lot of psychiatrists are pushed to do like 10-minute appointments or sometimes even faster and just like push through them. And I think that psychiatrists, if you don't have enough time to spend with patients, then you're just kind of writing out prescriptions, and I think a lot of doctors fall into that trap.
The regulations on these drugs are far too lax. They're overused, overprescribed, and very often end up in the wrong hands.
Are you prescribed any form of neurocognitive enhancement drug such as Adderall?
No.
Have you ever been given or bought a neurocognitive enhancement drug, and why not?
Multiple times, like all the time, a couple times a week, just because, it helps me study, it helps me get what I need done. I don't use it, and I don't use it to like get my stuff off of, but I get my stuff done.
Are you prescribed any form of neurocognitive enhancement drugs?
Yes, I'm prescribed to Adderall.
At what age were you prescribed Adderall?
I was prescribed when I was a freshman in college, so when I was 19 years old.
Do you think that use of a neurocognitive enhancement drug reduces your sense of dignity or aspect of hard work?
Yeah, I do believe it does a little bit because it's pretty easy to get prescribed to it from a doctor.
Overall, do you think these drugs are overused or there is a problem with illicit use of these drugs on campus?
Yeah, I do because it's easy for students in the college to obtain these drugs.
As you can see, these drugs are severely underregulated and overused, especially in the college context. First, let's take a look at their safety. Due to the limited amount of time that these drugs have been popularized to the general public, it's possible that not all the lasting negative effects have been completely studied. This could impact the vast number of individuals that are taking this drug.
What safety concerns should one have if taking a form of neurocognitive enhancement drug?
Well, you should always, right, you're putting something into your body, right, so if it is a drug, what are the long-term effects of taking that drug? But more than that, if you look at most of the supplements out there, right, in the US, all natural supplements are not regulated, right? So they may say they have one thing on the label, but they may be something totally different, or especially if you order them online from other countries and things like that, you don't necessarily know what's in them, which adds a whole layer of safety.
Whereas prescription stimulants are FDA regulated.
Are FDA regulated, yes.
I mean, I guess the difference is the people who come to me and ask, and are asking for it, like at least theoretically, legitimately. And I know as a psychiatrist, I can't believe people 100% that they're not. There's always that question mark in the back of my brain. But I would like to think at least that with careful discussion about the pros and the cons, and yes, like this might be helping you, but you have to make sure that you're not, that you're not experiencing depression, or you're not keeping yourself, like this is not a pill that is in place of sleep. If you don't get sleep, then you will do worse on exams, your memory will not be as good, and your body will start to decompensate and things like that. So I try to make sure that I give people the real, an open flow of communication as to what the real, benefits are, but what the real risks are.
Safety isn't the only concern with the misuse of these drugs. In fact, coercion is often seen in the workplace as well. Coercion is the practice of forcing another party to act in an involuntary manner by the use of threats or force. Coercion is seen in the business setting by encouraging their workforce to take these neurocognitive enhancers in order to increase productivity. Students can also feel forced to use these drugs in order to compete with their peers.
Do you think it is possible for coercion to occur in the work or school environment if these neurocognitive enhancement drugs are easily and widely attainable?
Yeah, right. If all of your friends are using these neurocognitive enhancers and it is making a difference in terms of their studying or their testing and things like that, right? And you are not benefiting from them, right? You are at a disadvantage. So I would say, yes, we could definitely get to the point that this is taking place in workplace or school.
Finally, neurocognitive enhancers can have severe implications on our current society. These drugs are very accessible, but they come at a higher cost, which is very easy to obtain by people exclusive to the middle or upper class. This causes a social disconnect between the classes. It allows the middle and upper class to have access to these drugs and to have more opportunities at getting better jobs. This is what we refer to as distributive justice. This could be corrected by thorough examinations by well-informed doctors as to whether or not an individual should receive these drugs, regardless of socioeconomic class.
Do you think there is an issue surrounding the distributive justice of neurocognitive enhancement drugs, like for all the people that are in need of these or that could benefit from them able to obtain them or get like the medical attention they need?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. People are not able to get them who need them. I think that kind of goes back to so many people with ADHD are in the prison population, or so many people in the prison population have, undiagnosed mental health disorders of all kinds, but ADHD is one of them. So I think that, what you call it, distributive justice?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I definitely think that. I'm also from Boston, so I'm like extremely liberal, I think. Well, by the way, most psychiatrists are, but I think that there's really a problem with access to healthcare in our country in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel there are so many kids who are already in an environment that is challenging to learn in, and then if you add in ADHD, then they can't function. But so absolutely, but I don't know how to fix that other than by just trying to help each individual person as I can see them.
After taking in all of this information, you may be asking yourself, why should I care? Well, whether you know it or not, there's probably someone that's close to you that takes this medication or is prescribed it.
Why do you think this is an important issue?
Because we don't want neurocognitive enhancers to get to that place that individuals feel like they have to take them, right, to succeed at school or work. If they don't have a diagnosed disorder, we don't want to get to the point that we are kind of tiered in society, and only those people with money that can afford them are the ones that take them, and further divides, right, economically and everything like that. So I think that regulation now is definitely important, right, or awareness and knowledge, more than regulation, I would say, is important to address the issue.
This concludes our feature presentation for today, the 21st century, the century of neuroscience.